Hey, so thanks for tuning back into another episode of the Bourbon Market. I'm Doug Romer. As always, I'm here with my good friend
Chuck McGowan.
So today, Chuck and I are talking about a bourbon that you may not have heard of, because. So here's the thing, Smoke Wagon is a bourbon that I can't get here in South Carolina. Um, I had heard about
I
it,
can get it.
I had never bought a bottle of it. And I was up visiting you, Chuck, and we went in and they had small batch and the uncut, unfiltered. And, we were sitting there talking and we were like, man, which bottle do we get? And we just decided to buy one of each. So, and so here's the thing. They're in Las Vegas. Okay. So it's a distillery in Las Vegas. You automatically think, okay, it's a novelty distillery.
Yeah.
Because of the whole Las Vegas thing. And then while it's a beautiful bottle,
you can't see it.
It's brown glass. Yeah. It's brown glass. And so I like to see my bourbon because I want to see the color of the bourbon, when it's on the shelf. Now, here's the thing. I understand that this is incredibly, with all the new bourbons coming out and stuff, this is an incredibly competitive market, and you've got to do something to kind of put yourself out there when people are walking through a liquor store. They've got to notice your bottle. It is a beautiful bottle.
On a scale from 1 to 10, they get a 15. I mean, they've done great. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, like absolutely. I mean, and you may not be able to see it on the camera, but there's, they've got some kind of leaf thing going up here. There's a wax seal in the bottle with their logo and everything. But like it's still, when I saw this, I was like, it's got to be a novelty bourbon. Like it has to be. But the thing was, when we went in the liquor store, you said, hey, I've been looking for this. Have you tried it? I can't try it. They're not here in South Carolina.
Yeah.
I can't buy it in South Carolina. Now, word is they're getting ready to distribute to South Carolina, which I'm extremely excited about. Before we came on, we were pouring our glass here, and I told you I had to hold it up to the light because of the brown bottle. But I said, hey, I need you to pick me up a bottle of small because I'm right here. And, you had to hold yours up to the light, and you said, yeah, that's where I'm at too. But so it's got to be a novelty bourbon, right?
That's what you would think by just looking at it. I mean, or hearing people talk about it. I mean, it's just the initial impression is that's what you get, is that it's a novelty bourbon that you don't know. It's also why it took us both so long to try. Didn't know if it was worth it.
Yeah, because I mean, and here's the thing is, even though it's not available in South Carolina, I can always get a bottle of it. It's not, I travel, you've got it right there in your back door. So it took a while to try, but we're going to go ahead. We've obviously, our bottle is right here. This isn't something that we were trying for the first time, but we're going to go ahead and review it and give our honest review of it and let you all know what we think about Smoke Wagon. So cheers, man. So
I definitely taste oak.
Yeah, so really good nose on the bourbon. It has a good nose, but then and I don't like a sweet bourbon, but you get a caramel, but it's not like overly. caramel.
Yeah, it doesn't overtake the whole tasting, that your whole palate. It's just enough.
Yeah, and so, you know, you get, like you said, the oak, you get some citrus in there, this is like, so I like a bourbon that, and this is, it's 100 proof. You know, and it's extremely smooth.
Yeah, for 100 proof, it's awesome.
It's an extremely smooth bourbon. But like I said, you get a little bit of caramel, you know, right there, just on the tongue almost immediately. Some citrus, you get oak, you get a little bit of spice in there. But it's a really, really complex bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, from I mean, because it finishes, it lingers. It's a really good bourbon. So, you know, I'll be the first to admit I misjudged Smoke Wagon.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, we're not acting like we're coming into this video and this is the first time we've ever tried this. We're not saying that at all. But I was definitely one of the people who misjudged Smoke Wagon. And, you know, a lot of times when you get on and you look at reviews and things like that, people don't like Smoke Wagon for some reason. And I think it's because they don't know anything about bourbon.
It's that, or it's just their own, instead of telling it the way it is, as far as what they're tasting and, you know, exactly what it tastes like, which is what we just went through, you know, according to us. They go to, you know, this is what it tastes like and this is why I don't like it. Well, that's not helping anybody. We try to do it a different way, to where we're going to tell you, you know, if something tastes extremely bad, that's when you're going to hear us talk about the negative. If it's horrible, absolutely horrible, I will tell you it is bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
in general,
and we've had those.
We've had those. And in general, though, like their stuff is not going to be bad, especially as of right now. They're sourcing their juice and finishing it on their own, so they're going to be a certain way. So they're doing a great job finishing it out. You know, I don't know where they're sourcing from. I'd like to know that. But it's a great bourbon.
So they're in. Yeah, so they're in MGP. Yeah. They're MGP, and you know, so here's the thing with it. When I see these distilleries that are sourcing their bourbon, I always have to wonder, because, and they've been in business since 2016. I'm pretty sure it's 2016. And so this is kind of a different one, because this one was started by like a bartender and a film guy, you know, so it's like kind of an unexpected marriage of, you know, came together, and it's MGP. But here's the thing is that I always wonder, and they're in a time, you know, they're looking at a time frame where they could start putting out their own bourbon. Mm-hmm. They, you know, had they been distilling, they could, and, you know, like right now you can have a 5-6 year bourbon. And so what I always wonder is, because I love this stuff. Okay. And, you know, you and I have had the uncut, unfiltered. It's incredible. You know, $60 to $70 bourbon, depending on what you may have to pay, like $75-$80 for it. You know, this is like $50. Yeah. You can find it. Sometimes you can find it $45. You know, around in there. They have uncut the younger that is came out. Not exactly sure. Like I said, here's the thing is I see what they're releasing and things like that. It doesn't really affect me because I can't get it. and so um, they've got an experimental rye coming out that just came out that I would love
Yeah.
to have. I would love to try it. 117 proof. It's a 9 year. People for some reason say that it's an 8 year bourbon. It says 9 years on the label. Not sure how you can disagree with that, but it's selling for $800 in the secondary market. And so I'm not going to get to try that, because like I said, I'm not going to find it at retail anywhere here. They've got a private barrel that is 112 proof, and it's somewhere around $100. And then Desert Jewel is a 10 year, and I'm definitely not going to get to try it because in the secondary market it's $1,500. But so here's the thing: is they've got a lot of stuff out, and they're doing everything right, in my opinion. You've got these distilleries, like a lot of distilleries could learn from them, because you have distilleries not going to. Well, no, I'm sure we'll mention names.
Oh, we can mention them all day long.
You've got a lot of distiller. Yeah, so you've got distiller, like $50 uncut, unfiltered, $70 in there. Incredible bourbon, really, really good bourbon. Some people could, some distilleries could really learn from these guys. And we pick on them here on the bourbon market. We do, and
I'm not going to apologize. Doug might apologize. Garrison Brothers, I will not apologize to you. And here's the reason why: you're too overpriced for what you are, and as young as you are, you don't have a history. The reason why is you're not from Kentucky, so you don't have a history of bourbon. There's absolutely no reason why to claim you do. I'm not going to pay $100 for your bottle. There's nothing you make that's worth $100 for me to absolutely go out and try for your low end. Actually make a low end, what would be for you a low end bourbon, what would be mid tier for most people, which is $50 to $60. Until you make that, I'm not going to try you. It's that simple.
Absolutely, and that's, I'm not going to apologize either, because I'm not going to try it. Like Garrison Brothers, if you're tired of us talking about how overpriced you are, listen, if you send us something and I try it and I'm like, this is an incredible bourbon, it's worth $150, which I highly doubt, because for $150 you can get incredible bourbon. But these guys have it figured out. Like, Smoke Wagon has it figured out. They've done an incredible job with what because like their biggest thing is trying to convince us that they're not a novelty bourbon.
Here's the thing with them, as a young company and a young distillery. They have started out like most of them do, where they source their bourbon, but they've done it the right way. They make a great product, but they hit their price point and they nailed it exactly where it's supposed to be. They've done their research. They basically don't have an ego about it. They're like, hey, we know what we have to do to start making a name for ourselves, and let's hit it and tier it. So the first two they have is their straight bourbon, their small batch, and their uncut, unfiltered, and they go up basically by $20 a level. That's exactly the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And people will buy it, and they'll try it, and you'll start making a name for yourself.
Yeah, and they started out. Garrison Brothers goes up $20 a level, but they started $150. So like they started out at the right price, and they stepped it up correctly, and they've got incredible bourbon, and that's why, like, Desert Jewel, $1,500 on the secondary market. Like, because you and I were talking about, we were looking at the calendar, And I saw that experimental rye, and I was like, with what we've had, that experimental rye is one that, like, I want. I can't go after it because I'm in South Carolina, and well, I can look all day. It's not on the shelves anywhere. But then, like, $800 on the secondary market, and but here's the thing: is so. Do we agree with the secondary market? I do not. It's one of those things. I will never pay those prices, but like it's kind of one of those things where the people have spoken and they really like the product, because people are paying that for those bottles, and so it's like I wish people had continued to be like, it's a loss of it. That's not going to work. I'm not going to try it. But like, people realize that this is an extremely good bourbon. They've done everything right. There's a ton of distilleries that could learn from these guys. So I mean, we'll go to. Speaking of South Carolina, you were down here on vacation and you picked up a bottle of Bluffton. And so, like, those guys should have sourced their stuff from MGP and worked on a better mash bill and figured out how to make bourbon.
I mean, they also only only age their stuff for about 2.5 years. I'm sorry. But you can't do you cannot do that.
No, so here's the thing, is it's still called bourbon, but is it going to be a bourbon that's worth drinking? Is it going to be a bourbon that's worth talking about? Well, I mean, we're talking about it, but it's not for the right reasons.
In previous episodes of where Doug and I are originally from. Okay, so to say we're biased isn't probably an understatement. When it comes to what's called bourbon.
Absolutely.
But we are. And if you grew up where we did, you understand. There's 2 things in Kentucky, well, 3 really, that you really won't contest. And bourbon's one of them, basketball's one of them, and horses is one of them. I'm sorry, but we'll win every argument. That's what it is.
Yeah. That's just the way it is.
But when it comes to what people make as bourbon and what they want to put a label on it as bourbon, they might have changed the law to where you can call something bourbon that's made outside the state of Kentucky. But if you're going to spend all the money to make your distillery and go through the process and pay all this money and have a product, pay homage to the people who started this business and done it right for I don't know how many years, for over a century, and please do it the right way. Smoke Wagon's done it the right way. If you're not going to do that, then don't even attempt it, because it's not the fact that some people don't make lower end bourbons, but if you taste, like, Bluffton is literally like, it is horrible. It's horrible.
And that's what, so I had one of the bourbons here that was in South Carolina, and somebody gave it to me. I wasn't buying the stuff, but it was one of those that was scientifically aged. And so it wasn't even 2 year. It was like 6 months, but supposedly they could age it to 7 years in 6 months or whatever it was. And like, I could have poured it in the gas tank of my wife's Tahoe, and the Tahoe would have spit it back out. Like, that's how bad it was. And so here's the thing, and we're from Kentucky. Your water isn't like in Kentucky. Your water is completely different. These distilleries are using water that is through limestone and things. So, and Chuck and I are not like I said, we're biased because of where we're from, and we've drank bourbon for half of our lives, but at the same time, there are some good bourbon, like Tennessee has some good stuff.
But
MGP is actually is
yeah,
Indiana, but it's like
yeah,
Louisville, Indiana. So, which is, it's literally right across the river from what is part of a lot of the, main part of the Bourbon Trail. And
but I mean,
so,
the reason why Kentucky and Tennessee rule the market, I mean, for the most part, is because they're technically the same. I mean, as far as, I mean, if you want to look at it like that. Now, Kentucky has a slight advantage because they do have more water coming off because of the cave systems and all that stuff off of limestone. But Tennessee has a lot of it too. And it's because there are more open streams in Tennessee and Kentucky than there are anywhere else in the country. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you can't argue it. And that's just that's the way geographically the whole region's set up, and it's set up to be what it is and why it's been so good for so long. And that's, we've talked about that, like with Smoke. I don't know, with Smoke Wagon, I don't know if they'll be able to pull off like with something like what Chattanooga did. We've talked about that, I think, before. When Chattanooga blended and then went on their own, making their own stuff, fully distilling their own stuff, and it's still great. I love them.
But Smoke Wagon, it's
Smoke Wagon's really Nevada. It's a whole different.
Smoke Wagon is, and here's the thing, but at the same time, because usually what I will say is, okay, guys, it's time to start doing your own bourbon. Jefferson's, let's just say Jefferson's, for instance. I'm like, dear God, you guys have been around for they've been around forever, and they're in Kentucky. Like, just go ahead and do your own bourbon, But everything's still sourced. But this right here, I'm fine if they want to continue to source their stuff from MGP and do what they're doing. Like, I would not complain whatsoever. I will always have a bottle of this in my cabinet. Will always have their stuff. And now, let me take that back. As long as it tastes like this, I will always have their stuff. If they are one of those distilleries that decide we're going to go ahead and do our own stuff, I don't think, and this is just me, I don't think that you're going to be able to pull it off when there are times that you're not allowed to take a shower because you have a drought.
Yeah.
You've got a water shortage. So it's different. But like I said, these guys have made an incredible product, and the way they blend, the way they age it is incredible. And I'm fine if they go ahead and stay with that. It's one of the few that I'm like, but like I said, Jefferson's, Garrison Brothers, it's just not, you're in Texas, okay? Tennessee, Indiana, you're right there. You're sharing a line with Kentucky. Texas, you're several states away. and your state alone is as wide of a margin as several states by themselves. And so I'm just going to say, unless, I'm not doing it. There's a difference, and there's a reason that Kentucky is the bourbon capital of the world. There's a reason that's where it started. And I just have trouble paying the $150. Well, don't have trouble. I absolutely will not pay the $150 for a bourbon that is not made in Kentucky, or at least sourced from one of those.
On a personal note,
those areas.
For me, when it comes to Garrison Brothers, if you're gonna actually create your own bottle, be original with it. You're within a couple of design flaws of basically copying Maker's Mark. You even copied their wax. The only difference is you chose a different color. Yeah. I mean, come on. Just do something that's original, especially if you're going to charge $100 a bottle. Otherwise, don't ask people to pay it.
Yeah. And,
you know.
Yeah. And so, listen, I was cracking up earlier. Like, I think it was yesterday I was looking through some stuff, some, bourbon events and things like that I thought that you and I could check out. And so Garrison Brothers came up as a bourbon event. And I was like, oh, this should be great. And so they have, you can volunteer and come in and bottle and dip and hand number the bottles. And like, to me, it's, I don't know. I was like, there was a waiting list for it. A waiting list. I'm like, just people go to the Bourbon Trail. You can dip your own bottle at Maker's Mark.
Yes, I have two in the cabinet, one for me and one for my wife. We're Maker's Mark ambassadors.
Yeah, you can take it home with you. At Garrison Brothers, you're numbering it and send it off to some person that's going to pay $150 for it. But their biggest thing was you got to take a shot every now and then.
Okay.
Listen, yeah, I'm like, who cares? So I know we got off on them because they, what they do aggravates us. But anyway.
But it is a great comparison to this stuff.
Yeah. It is. It's an absolutely great comparison because, age of the distillery, very similar. That's about the only thing that's similar. But this company, Smoke Wagon, incredible bourbon, incredible product. We've tried several of them. Would love to try several more. Like Smoke Wagon. Listen, I can't find any of your product, but like Private Barrel, can't get it. Desert Jewel, no way. They've got a bottled in bond coming out, and so would love to say that I'm going to be able to find it, but obviously I'm not. Experimental Rye, would love to try it. Smoke Wagon, if you want to send us some samples, absolutely. We will line them up here, and I'm sure that we will be absolutely pleased with your product.
Yes.
Over the moon about your product. But like I said, incredible bourbon. Know what they're doing. Incredible company. If you're looking for something, and it's 100 proof, it's extremely smooth. It's extremely, it's a good budget bourbon. It's not going to break the bank. It's something that if you have somebody over, you don't feel like pour them a glass, man. But yeah, as far as here at the bourbon market, Smoke Wagon, one of the better ones on our list.
I'm Chuck McGowan.
I'm Doug Romer, and we appreciate